to Reading with Tatiana. Today I'm reviewing Meet Me at the Lake by Carley Fortune, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5. My Booktuber Shoutout today goes out to Cheeky Chapters. I came across the channel when she just started earlier this year. She's been posting very consistently, and she does a mix of reviews, hauls, that kind of stuff. And I remember when I was watching her channel that she also has a bit of focus on contemporary romance, which I thought was really fitting for this review. So I'll link her channel down below if you want to show her some support. And as always, before I go into my full book review, if you're watching my videos, please hit the subscribe button. I'll really appreciate. Give this video a thumbs up. And if you have read this book, I'll also love to hear what you thought in the comments down below. This book was super recent. It was published this year in 2023, and the genre I will put it in is contemporary romance. A bit about the author Carley Fortune. So she spent most of her young life in the suburbs in Sydney, Australia, and in Barry's Bay, which is a tiny lakeside town in rural Ontario, which is actually where her debut novel called Every Summer After was set. I think it's pretty cool because this book, Meet Me at the Lake, is also set at a lakeside community in rural Ontario, so it's kind of cool to see her draw her inspiration from her realities. She holds a Bachelor of Journalism in a university in Toronto in Canada called Ryerson University, and she is also an editor for some of Canada's top publications. She currently lives in Toronto right now with her husband and 2 sons, and she's currently working on her 3rd book. I think it's really neat when you see authors that live in the area that their books are set, because I've been fortunate to visit Toronto a few times in my 20s, and it's cool to see some places that are real that she drew from. So I'm sure that if you live in Toronto or are familiar with Toronto yourself, it's always great to read about where you're from. A bit about the premise of the book. So it starts with Fern Brookbanks, who is 32. I think I really enjoyed this contemporary romance because I'm in my mid-30s, so it's kind of nice to have a protagonist who's around my age. So Fern Brookbanks, she lives in Toronto, and she manages a few coffee shops with her ex, which is a totally amicable relationship. And unfortunately, she finds that her mother has recently passed away, and she goes back home to this lakeside cottage resort that she grew up in and that her family manages. And this is in rural Ontario. So she goes back to this town, and we meet a cast of characters. So her mom unfortunately died. It was like a freak accident. And then we meet Jamie, who is her high school sweetheart and boyfriend. And we also meet Peter, who is a family friend of the family that she basically grew up with and was her almost like father figure, because Fern did not know her actual father growing up. So when she comes back, she is just flooded with emotions, because there was a time when it was kind of expected that she would take over the family business, and she went to university to get a business degree. However, after university, she decided that she did not want to go back to this family business in rural Ontario. She decided to stay in Toronto. So basically, when she comes back, she reflects on her and her mom's relationship. There wasn't really a falling out, but there was definitely like a tumultuous time between her and her mom through the years. She reflects on that, and then at this resort, because it's a contemporary romance, she meets or discovers that Will Baxter is also at this resort. So there's a funeral. There is Fern taking over this business, and all of a sudden there's Will Baxter, and Will Baxter, who he is, you're asking, is a man she met when she was 22, so exactly like 10 years ago, for one day in Toronto. And it had this whirlwind encounter. It wasn't romantic, because during this one day, she was still with her high school sweetheart, Jamie, in a long-distance relationship. But her and Will had this experience where it was the right person, the wrong time, that this amazing last night together in Toronto as friends, where they felt there was so much chemistry, but at the time they both had partners. So now it's kind of like, what does this mean? Why is Will at this resort at this time? And it's just very interesting, because it's kind of have this chance to revisit this moment they lost 10 years ago. One more aspect of this book or the story to add to is when they had met for one day 10 years ago, they decided that, due to the circumstances of having Fern has Jamie, her boyfriend at the time, and Will has also his girlfriend back in Vancouver. they decided that they met each other for a reason and they had these goals they want to accomplish, and that in a year's time they would meet at the lake. Hence the book Meet Me at the Lake of Fern's mom's resort, and that they will see that they have decided to meet their goals separately and that they can meet at the lake to see and maybe explore what could happen in their relationship. But of course, not a spoiler, because I say that Fern is the first time Fern's seen Will in 10 years. Will, for whatever reason, did not show up the year later. So it's kind of like, that's like, what happened? Why did he do this to me? So this book is also not just like right person, wrong time, but also like a redemption. So yeah, it was a very interesting premise and I really enjoyed that. Common themes I found in this book is leaving things to fate. Sometimes, the timing just isn't right, even though right now you really want things to happen right now for you, but sometimes the universe has bigger pictures for you down the line, and maybe it's just meant to be the way it's supposed to unfold. Also, again, that leads into timing things. Sometimes things, you know, again, you meet the right person, it's the wrong time. Maybe you're supposed to grow separately. Maybe there are things that are happening in their personal life. In a healthy relationship, your romantic partner isn't your one all be all. There's so many other aspects of your life as well that also need to jive and fit together. And also the importance of family and friends. I think this is very a common theme in lots of contemporary romance and also just books about people in general. Like, who are you about your community, right? Something that's really important. And also the idea of chasing your passions in life, and how it's so important to do that and be honest with yourself, to take those risks. But also, as you grow and as things change, that your passions can change, and that's okay as well. So I really enjoyed this book that hit all these different common themes. Now to get into the things I didn't like about this book. So the first thing I didn't like, if you watch my channel regularly, is I don't enjoy the smut. But that's fine, I was able to see past it. I still really enjoyed the plot and all the concepts and the common themes of the book. I also thought was sad how one aspect of the book was obviously the mother-daughter relationship, and it was sad that the mother withheld things from her daughter, and the mom unfortunately died, so it's just too bad that the daughter, didn't always get the exact closure that she wanted. As I gave this book a 4 out of 5, there are many things I really enjoy about the book. The first thing I enjoyed was, surprisingly, the high school boyfriend Jamie, the ex. Even though he's kind of seen as kind of like, not a villain per se, they definitely didn't do that in the book, but you would think, oh, this ex, like he's here, blah, blah, blah. But Jamie was actually kind of like really funny. I really enjoyed his character, and I can say that about a lot of the other characters as well. I also liked how this book was set in Toronto. Even though I've never lived in Toronto, I feel like Toronto was like, because I've been there and I just visited, there are a few things in places that she mentioned that I am familiar with, and I really enjoyed that. So I bet if you do live in Toronto, you will extra enjoy that part of the book. I also like Fern and Will's character. They were not perfect by any means, but they felt very relatable and very realistic, and it made me think about me dating in my early 20s and that kind of stuff. And one thing I liked about this book as well is the characters always had like a secret or something they were hiding, and I really enjoyed how the author wrote these subplots out. It was never obvious and kept you guessing, and I really enjoyed how that played out. On Goodreads, this book got an average of 3.75 out of 5, which I think is very accurate. The bad reviews were people thought it wasn't very realistic how Fern would pine over Will and vice versa for 10 years after she was stood up from meeting at the lake after just one night together. They also didn't like the allusion to cheating and infidelity, even though it was emotional. Good reviews are people love the attention to detail and the homage to real places in Toronto. People like me also enjoyed the flawed characters, but because they were realistic characters, and people also enjoy the trope of second chance romance. I think you should read this book because I think it is a great summer romance read. I mean, it's set by a lake, there is romance, there's nostalgia, there are second chances. What more could you want? Now I'll share how this book made me feel, because if anyone ever recommended me a book, I always like to ask them how it made them feel, because if you ask me a week, a month, 5 years from now, I probably won't remember exactly what the book was about, but always remind how it made me feel. So this book, Meet Me at the Lake by Carley Fortune, it made me feel very nostalgic of my youth. I think a lot of us have experienced, unless you obviously met and married your high school sweetheart or university sweetheart, the idea of a summer fling, or just someone you met and the timing just wasn't right, but doesn't take away from that sweet and short romance that you had. So it really made me think of that. Thank you for watching until the end of my book review for Meet Me at the Lake by Carley Fortune. If you read this book, please comment down below in the comments what you thought of this book, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.